Hey there. My name is Chris Lema, and today we're going to talk about how to generate more revenue this holiday season. Now, you already know, right, that the all the projections for e-commerce and all the numbers are going up and to the right. And yeah, there's going to be delays and there's going to be shipping costs and it's going to cost more to deliver all of that value, but at the end of the day, it's already going up and to the right. And what I want to do in the little time we have today is try and help you take it even higher. And we're going to do that by talking about what happens post purchase or what's called post purchase upsells. I'm going to say something that is a little bit counterintuitive, but the rest of the time, what I'm going to do is give you some examples and prove to you with science that this is the way to go. So without any delay, let's get started. And the first thing that you'll see here, right, is that the best time to sell anything to anyone is right after they've made a purchase. And you're like, wait, what? You're telling me that the right time to sell something is after I just sold something? Yep. Let me give you 3 examples of how this works. So the first one is one that you've experienced, I'm guessing, and that is you've bought a phone case after buying an iPhone. Now maybe you're not an iPhone buyer. Maybe you buy a Samsung. But there's a whole bunch of you that are iPhone buyers, and so if you're not one, you likely know someone. And you may have even ridiculed them for the fact that they spent over $1,000 on a phone or $700 or $800 on a phone, and you're like, it's a phone. But more ridiculous than that is when someone goes and buys a $30, $40, or $50 case for something that costs $1, $2, maybe $3 to make. And you go, that's crazy. Yet tons of people do it all the time. In fact, if Facebook is back on and you're scrolling through Facebook, you will see a whole bunch of ads for fairly expensive and unique iPhone cases right now. Why? Because the iPhone 13 just came out. And that's when everybody shows up and says, here are all these cases. And their logic is, hey, you spent all that money on a phone, you might as well protect it. Accessory sales go way up every time a new phone is rolled out. This is an example of selling someone something right after you just sold them something. But that's not the only example. Let's look at the second case. I bought a car just a few months ago. And you know what was pitched to me? Yeah, something called ceramic coating. It is the protection. It's a thin layer, some sort of chemical polymer that you put over the car, and it protects you. It protects the shine of the car, but it also protects it from scratches and all sorts of stuff. And you know what? It doesn't cost very much, or at least it doesn't cost a lot in comparison to buying the car. So if you've bought in a car in the last, several years, there's normally someone, that's been helping you with the sale. And then you finally go to the back room. That's the finance guy, right? And they're going to, finish out the deal and collect your check. But that's the guy. After you've finalized and made decisions on the car you want, etc., that's the person who's going to say, well, now that you made that call, let me sell you one little extra something or other. Right? And it's not an accessory. It is, they could do accessories, but it is often service related stuff, right? Hey, you have this nice car. Would you like oil changes for life? Or would you like car washes for life? Or would you like to pre-buy at a discounted rate the 50,000 and 100,000 events when you come in and do maintenance, right? Or ceramic coating. All of it is service-based, right? But again, it goes to the heart of you spent tens of thousands of dollars on a vehicle, spending another 500 or 1,000 is not that big a deal. Now, here's a third. A year ago, I bought a house in Houston. I moved to Houston from Southern California. In Southern California, it doesn't rain a lot. In Houston, it rains a whole bunch. In fact, it rains so much that there are all sorts of rating systems for whether your house is in a levee area, a flood zone, a 10-year flood zone, 50-year flood zone, 100-year flood zone. And it's not clear that everybody knows how long 100 years is, because just a few years ago, they had two storms that each produced 100-year floods within months of each other. And you're like, months is not 100 years. But that's not the point. The point is, I bought a house, right? And right after I bought the house, you know what the next call was? The insurance guy who wanted to tell me about the 7 different kinds of little micro policies, if you will, that I could buy only related to water and flooding. You could flood your house from water from the outside coming in, and from the inside going out, from below the ground coming up, from above coming down. There's all sorts of different policies. And of course, my wife and I were like, just sign them all up, right? Yes, we want all of it. I'm not even sure we asked how much it was going to cost, because we just thought, oh man, if we moved into a place where there could be flooding, we want to make sure that we have the right insurance. Notice again, right? Very easy sell, because we just bought something we really, really liked and wanted. And then they're like, hey, do you want to protect this? And you're like, yeah, of course. So you're probably thinking, hey, the model here, right? The big scientific, wow, is when you sell something that's a large ticket item, go ahead and add or offer a small ticket item so that it's an easy close. And that's true. That's absolutely true. But that's not the point. All right? There's more here to this. So there's a machine that lets you lay down in it, puts your head in it, and does functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI. Now, what happens is when blood goes into your brain, right, it has oxygen. And when blood comes out of your brain, it's deoxygenated blood. And the magnetic resonance of the difference between oxygenated and deoxygenated blood is now something they can see on a chart. So they can see where your brain was hungry, right? Where it sucked in that oxygen, which also tells you which parts of the brain are working. So lo and behold, we've now been using fMRIs for everything. We use fMRIs like people pre-screen movies, right? Directors and producers will put a person through and have them watch the movie to see if their brain is engaged enough, to see if it's exciting enough or stressed enough or exciting enough, or, all of the stuff that they're spending money on special effects. They want to make sure that they are getting it right. In this particular case, we use fMRIs as it relates to shopping, right? So they put people in an fMRI machine and they flashed some products and then said, would you buy this or would you not? And what they discovered was that most of the decision making for a purchase was emotional, feeling and the memory of experience, rather than facts, rather than an evaluation of features, rather than a weighing of pros and cons. So we like to tell ourselves that, we're making a rational and intelligent decision when we buy something, but more often than not, we use all of that to essentially tell ourselves after the fact that it was a good buy. When we're actually making the decision, it's pretty emotionally driven. So let's look at what that curve looks like. And I say curve even though I've drawn it as a stair-step function. The attention curve is what I'm talking about. And when you visit a website to buy something, right, trust is developing. Now, the reason I draw this as a stair-step function is because it's actually a little checklist of things that are happening. And more often than not, trust is getting eroded rather than being developed, right? So you're good if, as people are navigating through your site, you're not flipping any bits that scare people off. Because most of the time, that's what happens. You get to a website, and the font looks a little too funky, you're gone. You get to a website, the pictures are all over the place, and there's not in a nice grid, there's no alignment, you're gone. Because it just looks cheap. You get to a website, and there's high pressure sales, and you go, I don't think this is for me, and you're gone, right? But if none of those things happen, you're building and building trust. And in that, what's happening emotionally is your attention is being driven towards I think I need that, right? I think I want that. I'm very excited. And then you have the buying moment. And all of that attention drops off pretty darn fast. And you're off thinking about the next thing. I want you to think about for a second if you've ever had that kind of experience, right? Where you're like, you browse somewhere on the web and you found a pair of tennis shoes you liked, or you found a dress you liked, or you found a pool table that you liked. And then what happens? It's hard to get out of your head, right? You're thinking about it, you're thinking about it, you're thinking about it. And of course, the web is retargeting you. So they're showing it to you everywhere you go. And you're thinking about it and you're thinking about it. And then you buy it. And the moment you buy it, there's this release, there's this joy, there's this, I have it. And then it's conquered and boom. The next day, you're not thinking about it. And the day after that, and hours later that, you're not thinking about it. It's done with. You have moved on. That's the way our brains work. Now, there are folks that are way smarter than I. A neuroscientist and assistant professor over at Harvard, right? Who said what happens is in the nucleus accumbens is where when you first look at something you're thinking about buying, that's your pleasure center. And you start feeling sensations of pleasure. Like, ooh, this would be so exciting to have, to own. I would love it and it would make me so happy, right? Then you see the price and your prefrontal cortex kicks in. That's where you do some decision making. More often than not, you do a lot of analysis, right? And so you're going, should I? But it's where you're gonna drive that decision. Then you look at the pricing, and there's another part of your brain that fires up. That's the insula, if you say it like that. That's where we feel pain. And you go, wait, what? What does pain have to do with it? It's the pain of parting with your cash. And what happens is, and this is what Uma Karmarkar discovered, is that the more the insula is activated, the more, right, that sense of, this is going to cost too much, the more people decide not to make a purchase. So, it's not like happy angel and bad devil on your shoulders going back and forth, but it's a little bit like that, right? Where suddenly someone is looking at something and going, ooh, I like, do I want to spend that much? Eek, that would hurt too much. And nope, I won't buy it, right? That's one neuroscientist. Let's look at another, right? Professor of neurobiology at Columbia, David Sulzer, says, hey, listen, what's really going on here, right, is that when you're looking at stuff, you're looking at especially in online stores, when you're looking at websites and products, you have this idea of this is what I'm going to experience, and then you're checking that against your experience, and so you have expectations and perceptions. Now, when there's a surprise, like, hey, check it out, 30% off, you get dopamine, and dopamine is that pleasure chemical that gets released in your brain that says, ooh, wasn't this fun that we were out looking about, right? You've heard of retail therapy, right? It's a fancy phrase for a dopamine hit. And so these folks realize that, hey, when it comes to brain science, neuroscience, there's a dynamic that makes you not want to buy, and there's a dynamic that makes you want to buy. And that's why I want to talk to you about post-purchase upsells. Because after you've gotten in that attention curve, after you've gotten to the point where you're making a purchase, there's a moment right after the purchase where you can surprise someone. You can say, hey, heads up, I got a special for you. And that's before the attention falls off. And it's where the dopamine hits because you go, ooh, surprises? I like surprises. That's the post-purchase upsell opportunity. All right. Now, anytime I talk to folks about this, right, I have to put in the, hey, circle, highlight, underline, warning. You don't want to learn about this neuroscience. You don't want to learn about how this stuff works just to manipulate other people, right? So what you really want to be doing is thinking about, okay, is this a tool I can use? Is this a strategy that I can use? And if so, how do I do it well, right? You don't want to be manipulative. You want to help people. So what kinds of offers should we be creating? We know when to create it, right? Right after they purchase, they're not expecting a post-purchase upsell. And then you go surprise and they go, ooh, I'm inclined. This is exciting. And you know that if you make the price of the item much smaller than the price of what they just bought, they're even in a better position to close. So we know all that already. Now, what are some examples where you're doing good? You're helping someone, right? In every case that I gave you, the examples, the ceramic coating on the car or the flood insurance on the house, even the case on an iPhone, the intention is to help you. The intention is to make sure to protect what you've purchased and keep the value high. That's not manipulative. That's not wrong. It's really helpful. So what are some examples where you can be helpful? Well, let's look at a couple, right? If you've ever bought a couch, you know that the last thing you want to do is pull your car up to the back of that shop, have them jam it into your car, or truck, you take it back home. Now you got to figure out how to get it into your house, how to get your old couch out. And then they say for $99, after you spend $4,000 on a couch or something, for $99, our guys can do white glove service, and they'll come and they'll take away your old couch and they'll drop in the new. And you go, yeah, absolutely. Now the same thing is true with digital products. You can say, hey, you just bought this great product, but if you want someone to come in and work out all the settings, I'll spend 30 minutes interviewing you, asking you what your intentions are, and then I will, because I know the product, I'll go in and I'll just configure it. So installation assistance is a great upsell. What else? Premium support, right? Yeah, you have regular support, but what about a red carpet lane? What about an opportunity for someone to say, I have an issue, and you go, well, you are in a special class. You can run straight up to the front of the line and get help. Of course, there's people who want that. Again, if you think about that iPhone, right? If you spend $1,000 paying $99 or $199 for Apple Care or something, if you happen to be someone who often drops your phone, that's not a bad deal, right? You're going to get premium support. They're going to take care of you. And you go, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Another is access to community. When you have bought something, you've also joined, potentially, a list of owners who have also bought it. Now, this does not happen when you buy most cars, right? When you buy most cars, they're like, okay, whatever, thank you, take care. You drive it off the lot. If you buy a Tesla, right, you get the info for joining a club, right? Here's the Tesla Owners Club, and you can do it, and you're like, okay. If you buy a Harley, right, the Harley User Group or Owners Club, they pay, right? When you buy a Harley, they pay the first year, so that you can be part of the Owners Club, right? And you go, oh, wow, I didn't realize that there was a whole community that I could participate in. And it's not just about vehicles, right? There's all sorts of places where you buy something and then you say, okay, now you get access. If you're buying software, now you get access to our Facebook group or our Circle SO group or whatever it is. It's where people who've bought before can huddle and connect and get help from one another. You can do that too. And again, if someone's bought a decent price point of a product, you bring that cost of that community access to 10, 15% of what they've spent, it's a no-brainer. Someone goes, yeah, I love belonging. I want to belong. That price point, hey, surprise, look at this great deal. You can even do fancy stuff like anchoring it higher. Like, hey, this community access, if you bought it on your own, is $99 a year. But since you just spent $50, you can buy in for $7, right? And they go, what? Yeah, of course, I need to buy this, right? Anyway, that's another example. But we have more, right? What about discounts? Additional discounts. You're like, what? How are you going to sell someone discounts after they made a purchase? I'll tell you. I went to buy my wife clothing. I went to a nice store. It wasn't like fancy. It was just a nice store. And I bought her some clothes, right? I don't remember if it was anniversary or birthday, but it was a special occasion. And so I spent about $200 on clothing. That's not a ton of clothing, but it was a decent amount of money to spend. I spent $200 and they said, would you like this book of discounts for an additional $15. So I went from $200 to $215, and they said this little booklet, right, is, I don't remember what it was, $300, maybe $400 worth of savings. I'm like, for $15, sure, throw it in. I mean, I'm already 200 deep. You might as well throw $15 more in, right? What I didn't realize was it wasn't like $400 all the next day. No. It was a certain amount of discounts per month. What were they doing? They were inviting my wife. I would give the little booklet to my wife, which I did. And they were inviting her, come back and shop with us every month for the next year. Here's a couple discounts in January. Here's a couple in February. Here's a couple in March. And she did. She went back, right? She went back 2 or 3 times now. She probably didn't get $400 worth, but she definitely got more than $15 worth of savings. And you can do the same thing, right? Additional discounts are easy to do. Coupons, discounting, put people in a membership that automatically gets discounting. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but you can definitely upsell a discount. And rapid accelerators. Rapid accelerators are what happens when you realize that you don't really want. You know how people are out there selling you a course, right? Let's say I go buy a course and they're like, hey, here's the perfect 32 lesson how to use your Sony camera, DSLR, or whatever, like any kind of digital apparatus. But let's just say we're talking about a camera. Here's a 32 video lesson course on how to use your Sony Alpha 7. Do I really want to become the master of the camera, or do I just want, that one lesson that is, how to use it for video streaming, right? So it turns out, right, often what we're doing is we're creating these entire courses or anything else where we're giving people a whole bunch, but not all of what they asked for. What we asked for is just, hey, give me this one thing so I can get going quickly, so I can use the product the way I want to use it, so I can do something else. So accelerators can be anything that moves you, right? When you're in a fast car, they always say 0 to 60 in blank, 2, 3, 4 seconds, right? How do you get going quickly? And you can sell rapid accelerators. They could be in the form of courses. They could be in the form of cheat sheets. They could be in the form of guides. They could be in the form of actual one-on-one assistance. But whatever it is, that's going to help someone feel like they made use of the purchase. So I want to wrap up by highlighting that 80% of your future profits, this is so important. Gartner did the study, and 80% of your future profits come from just 20% of your existing customers. Those customers have to feel like they were wowed, they were surprised, they were delighted. And a post-purchase offer, a post-purchase upsell is a great way to delight and give a special deal to those folks. And what we know is when people are delighted and they make a second and a third purchase, they're more likely to come back for a third and a fourth. And those are the folks that are going to drive a majority of your profits. Here's the thing. Getting a new customer is expensive. Most studies say that it's 5 times more expensive to win over a new name than to sell back to the base. Yet only 16% of companies sell back to that base. Post-purchase upsells is the easiest way for you to drive more revenue, which is perfect in this holiday season, delight more of your customers, and drive long-term profits because you keep those customers around. There is no better way to drive your revenue up. Thank you. My name is Chris Lema. I'm both the GM at LearnDash and a VP of product at Liquid Web. Take care.